国人怎么看今年宾州和当地市县的选情呢？自由派和保守派的心态又有什么样的不同？美国人所谓的城市价值和郊区价值又有什么不一样呢？朋友们好，欢迎来到新田面对面。今天新田要给您带来的是上周我在宾州的另一个实地采访。那么跟前2期的采访节目不太一样哦。那特点呢，就是这次是跟一位宾州土生土长的美国人一个非常深入坦诚的交谈，将近有20分钟啊。那我们谈到的话题还包括他怎么看当今美国社会政治的两极化，主流媒体和社交媒体在其中起到了什么样的作用。他还当场呢给辛田作为一个媒体记者做了评价，您好不好奇呢？那么这个谈话是比较深入又很轻松。有趣的是呢，这个主人公约翰一开始他是不肯透露他会支持谁当总统。不过呢，随着我们的聊天的进行，到了最后他差不多就自己说出来了。好，如果您喜欢了解美国人的真实想法的话呢，这是一个不可错过的访谈。这是我上周在宾州的原声采访的第3期节目了。那还有一些我会在接下来几天里继续发布的。同时呢，我也在计划下一站的实地采访，所以呢，请您记得订阅新田面对面频道，打开小铃铛，就可以及时的收到新视频的通知了。刚进视野的朋友呢，记得注册一个账号并关注我的频道。另外呢，再一次的感谢捐助我这个2024年美国大选摇摆州实地采访的项目的朋友们，真的是非常的感谢。好的，那么现在我们就正式进入今天的节目话题了。约翰呢是一个在宾州土生土长的美国人，跟太太结婚将近40年他们曾经在费城郊区一个叫做很有意思的名字叫媒体 media 的小镇生活了将近30年，养育了4个孩子。这个媒体小镇距离费城只有13英里，大约有6000的人口。约翰呢曾经是一个大公司的化工机械工程师，后来就开了自己的一个这个咨询顾问公司。太太呢目前还在一个大公司的人事部门工作。2年前，约翰呢进入了半退休的状态，他们就搬到了费城以北的一个更小的城市，叫米尔福德 （Milford）。那里呢只有1100多人。那么细心的观众朋友您可能会注意到我们采访的背景呢挺美的，但是好像又有点乱。这是因为约翰夫妇他们还在装修这个2年前买的房子。据说呢，几个星期之后它就会变成了包括他们房东也住在里面的一家民宿了。
Do you have someone in mind already who to support?
I'd rather not say.
And then would you mind sharing what are the most important issues for you, this year?
I think inflation is probably the biggest issue. And inflation, of course, a lot of these issues end up being, they're so interconnected. Inflation is one thing, but all the pressure that the energy policy has put on us has caused a lot of the inflation. The pressure of people coming into the country has caused inflation too. So I think there's some major challenges that the country has right now. Milford Borough itself is quite liberal. Okay, the county, Pike County, and pretty much the entire Northeast is very conservative. When you go to Philadelphia, the whole Philadelphia area is perhaps a little bit more liberal, including the collar counties around Philadelphia. So this is, even though it's the same state, it's a little bit different. It's more the central part of Pennsylvania that is more tied into rural values rather than city values.
Philadelphia this year is especially important, right? It's the key swing state.
Oh yes, but Pennsylvania, I think, probably is going to be the if they call it the tipping point state. Either Pennsylvania or Georgia, one of them will probably end up being that. So, and it's it's a position that Pennsylvania has been in for many years. It's always been very, very close.
How you feel about this year versus last two elections?
Well, if you're talking about 2016 and 2020, okay, this is a weird election. This year. It's well, actually, all three of them were a little bit strange. And, of course, all three of them had Donald Trump running, and he is the outsider, not a political insider. And then you have somebody, who's coming in, and we had the pandemic, and that sort of threw a monkey wrench into a whole lot of different things. And I think we're still seeing a lot of the repercussions of the pandemic, and things that'll happen. The world's a little different now than it was, even let's say 5 years ago. I think that a lot of the models that people might be using, they don't have the good data that they had, let's say, 10 years ago. And so it becomes really challenging for them to extrapolate how people are going to vote or what have you. So, I mean, that's my opinion anyway.
Do you feel people know a lot about Kamala Harris?
Definitely not. No, I think that she hasn't given an interview or she gave one very short and very supervised interview over the past 7 weeks, I guess, is really challenging because, for us to make a really good decision, we need to be informed, and we're not being informed. We're being basically guided. And
you mean even as a registered Republican, you do want to know both sides? Absolutely.
It makes sense for us to know both sides. I mean, I don't necessarily, when I say registered Republican, I don't necessarily vote Republican everywhere. I'd like to know who I'm voting for. So
would you mind sharing in the last two elections who did you vote for, which side?
I'd rather not say.
Okay, you want to make it really unpredicted.
No, it's just I don't want to color the opinion in that, and to be really quite honest about it. The unfortunate thing is, and I'm not saying here, but in general, when you say that you're taking a side, there's a lot of people out there who essentially tell you, well, you're not on my team, so you must be against me. And I'm trying to start a business here. I need as many people on my side as possible. So whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you're married for 38 years like I am, or whether you're single or gay or whatever, I don't really care. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your ethnicity. I don't care about your political affiliations. And I don't think that people should judge people based on that. So, I mean, that's so.
And that's what America used to be, right? More or less.
I think idealistically we would say so. In reality, people have always been very, I'll say, parochial about the way they do things. People like to hang out with people that they understand, people that they know, and so you will find, let's say, for instance, Philadelphia. There's an Italian neighborhood, there's a Chinese neighborhood, there's a Polish neighborhood, and that sort of thing. In an ideal world, everybody would mix together. I know my mother used to tell me she was from a small town out in western Pennsylvania, and it was Winburn, Pennsylvania, coal mining town, and they had multiple Catholic churches. They had the Irish Catholic Church, they had the Polish Catholic Church, and they had the Italian Catholic Church. Now, they were all Catholic, but if you were Polish, you did not go to the Italian Catholic Church. So it's very interesting that our society really hasn't changed all that much. We're just highlighting it in a different way. And I'd say social media has done a lot of it, and, we tend to think of us as being different. We haven't changed much.
Years ago, when I tried to interview people here, people, not right here, like when I interview people, most of people would say, okay, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, maybe 50-50. People especially say, oh, talking about the election, no, it's politics, no. If I say the first question is about election, you may not talk to me.
No, I would talk to you because I'm a very sociable person, and also, quite honestly, that's the vibe that I'm trying to generate around here too, is that we can be civilized. One of my biggest challenges, and I'm going to knock social media for just a tiny little bit. Social media has been like you're behind a car on the highway. You don't mind cutting people off. You don't mind making obscene gestures to them, and that because you become anonymous. And in a little town like this, you're not really anonymous. Everybody knows you. We'll get people walking up and down the street, and you see them every day. And so you become very, very comfortable with them, and you also know that you have to get along. And so, I would talk with you regardless of whether you came to me and said, do you espouse some really weird view? No, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and if we can have a civilized discussion, that's great. If we end up going south on the conversation, then maybe we should stop and take a step back. And I don't see that happening. And I see that, whether it's on the street or whether it's in the political discourse today, and we'll sort of bring it around to politics. I would much more like it if they would sit down and have a conversation rather than bash each other, because bashing each other just tells me, just fills the airwaves with a whole bunch of negativity. Not that I'm, real touchy-feely about that sort of thing, but I'd like to know what's going to happen rather than, how bad the other person is.
And how do you feel about the media's role nowadays? You mentioned the social media.
Yeah. Okay. Well, social media is one thing. The media, in terms of, let's say, the television, radio, what have you, I don't know that they're being totally objective. Well, today, if somebody were to come to me and they were to say, I'm from CNN, you kind of know where they're coming from. If somebody comes to me and they're saying, I'm from Fox, you know where they're coming from. Same thing for Newsmax or CNBC or just about any of the other networks. If they come to you, you kind of know where they're coming from, because you can read behind the lines, and you can also know the questions that they're asking are leading in one way or the other.
How about me?
You're playing it right down the middle. I think you're doing good.
Great.
Okay.
That's the best compliment I have.
I'm trying real hard.
Coming back to the election,
yes.
You kind of getting to know people here, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah, so you mentioned a lot of them are pretty liberal. Do you know why?
Yes, I can. I can tell you, and I don't mind sharing this. There's a very large gay population here in town, and the gay population tends to be, I won't say single issue, but they tend to, focus more on issues that impact them directly, rather than the broader issues. And then, of course, you have people who live out in the more rural areas, and I would consider them to be more of a libertarian viewpoint. Stay out of my life, and that, and so that would be more conservative, and they would probably spend more. They would probably lean more towards the Republican side. Just one more thing. I don't think either candidate is perfect, by the way. In fact, they're both flawed. And if you were to ask me, do we have a perfect choice? I would tell you that probably I'd go in, and I've told my wife this. I'd go into the voting booth. I'd hold my nose, and I'd vote, because they have baggage with them, and it's a real challenge.
But you're gonna vote.
Of course.
How important you think this year's this election?
It's important. It's important. It sets. There's a lot of things in motion that are going to be very challenging for us. So, it's important, for both sides. If someone wants to be if someone wants to be more socialistic, then perhaps Kamala, I don't know how to pronounce her name, by the way, might be the one to vote for. If someone is more a business approach and wants to be, more in tune with, national security and that, then maybe Trump's the best person to do it. So, I think in the long run, we have a very polarized society right now, and it's like 50%. I'd love to see an election where we had 80%, vote for one side. That's never going to happen. I don't think there's ever been an election where we've had more than maybe 60%, 60-40, even in the real lopsided elections that we've had over the years. So.
Yeah, you mentioned that the more socialistic views or a society. So, do you feel that those more liberal people, do they realize what a socialist society we're gonna bring to America?
The real question is, how do we pay for all of this? And it's really nice to get handouts, and people look at it from that standpoint. How do we get a bigger piece of the pie? How do we, if the government's going to give us money, if the government's going to give us health care, if the government's going to guarantee everything in our lives, that's good, And I will tell you, I'm collecting Social Security now, but I've paid into it for 40 some years. So that's an important thing to remember also. However, the aspect of that is, who pays for all this in the long run? It's not like there's a bottomless pot of money there, and so somebody has to work. Somebody has to do the effort, and the big challenge with the socialistic mentality is that in many ways it takes away the incentive that our country was built on to grow the economy by competing. Right here, we've invested a tremendous amount of money in this. This is a business, and so I've retired from my earlier career. My wife is still working.
What did you do?
I was a consulting engineer. I built pharmaceutical and cosmetics plants throughout the world, and it was a fun career. And it was time for me to leave and try something different. So now, my wife is still working. Yes, she does HR for a chemical company, and so she's right now working and away, and I'm here in heaven. So it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it is beautiful. So now some people will say, well, those wealthy people should pay, and so that everybody has a better life.
Okay. Well, there's the a little bit of envy that goes into something like that. The wealthy people, the way they became wealthy was by making either good investments or good or taking risks and being rewarded for their risks. And instead of saying, well, we should penalize them, we should make it so everybody can become wealthy. And by trying to incentivize people to become wealthy. And so taking money away from wealthy people, I'll give you an example. If somebody's really wealthy, what are they going to do with that wealth? They spend it. And they're spending it, on a whole variety of different things. So the question becomes then, who's better at spending the money? The person who created wealth and accrued it over a period of time, or the government, who basically, we're $35 trillion in debt right now, and the debt clock is running continually. We haven't figured out how to do that, and that's a real challenge. Earlier I said inflation. Inflation plays into that. Our trade deficit, the way we're exporting our resources. It's a very complex thing, and the government is basically a big business. And I would like to see it run a little bit better than what is being run right now.
Thank you, John.
So here's my question for you.
Yes.
Okay. Where does this air?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's gonna air on my channel.
好的，观众朋友，您看了这个约翰的采访啊，最大的一个感受是什么呢？那已经有朋友也在留言里面说了，Holly 梅云说他肯定投川哈，看到后面呢可能也是比较清楚了，但是我前面就是试着问了他2次，倒不是说我一定要探听他的隐私因为我就是确实就是我想大家都非常好奇嘛，像他这样的美国人会选谁呢？好，那有2位朋友都觉得说，哎，这位老先生的脑子还蛮清醒的哈。是这样，就是跟他就是谈话的过程中间他也很愿意分享。其实呢，因为他们家里在装修嘛，我最先看到的是他的那个承包商，就是 contractor。然后那个 contractor 的老板呢，他其实。我先问他嘛，他说你不要问我，他的意思呢就是说他不想分享哈。后来我就跟他我说那我不录下来，你到底是什么想法？他也就跟我分享了。那他的看法呢是属于保守派的，但是像这样的美国人，其实目前就像我在刚才跟这个您看到我跟约翰的对话中间哈，以前呢。其实这种情况比较少，以前呢更多人是像约翰那样的但是呢对现在的情况呢就是稍微要比美国就是以前那个情况呢稍微有点不同，就是有一些人他会比较担心一点，或者说比较不愿意那么公开的说了，我想也是可以理解。但是就是他那个承包商那个包工头他说你没关系，他说这个屋主特别愿意说话的，他说我帮你把他叫下来，这就是为什么我能够给跟约翰做这样的一个采访。好，那然后呢，这个约翰他的太太是属于可以说是那个就是叫 suburban woman。郊区女性这样的一个类别，然后呢，她就是特别的不太愿意说，所以呢，就是我也有跟她交谈一些但是呢，有很多是没能够录下来的，因为她不像约翰那么的。就是大方就很愿意说出来。但是我想呢，就是对于 suburban woman 这一类人呢，其实呢。他太太也有提出，他说你们也不要把它 stereotype 好像弄成一个刻板印象。我说是这样，但是呢，因为也是从统计嘛，就是民调统计出来就是很多的这种郊县女性，比较支持那种。偏左派的理念的。那我想呢，在接下来的几个星期我就想说能够再多去采访一些，这样的话呢，可能反映出来就是说他们到底为什么这么想更有一些内容吧。我不能说只采访了一个人就把他的说法就当成一个普遍化的一个想法是这样子的。 好，那我看看还有一些朋友有什么样的。赵小兰啊，这位朋友说，美国有这样高素质的公民是幸运的呀。然后就是运之说，学校问题真的害了一代哦。大家，我想这个是非常的深有感触。然后关于这个经济问题啊。经济问题的话呢，其实我想可能在下一个视频中间哈，我也会分享一些这个经济政策方面，然后在宾州的这些选民哈，在这个方面他们有什么样的不同？就是基本上可以说是保守理念的人，他们是对这个经济政策问题是什么样的感受、什么样的想法，而另外的可能是就是说。比较支持左派理念的，或者说还不太清楚的人，他们在这个方面哈，又是什么样的一种想法或者说看法？所以呢，就请大家期待下一期的这个访谈节目。所以讲到这里呢，还是提醒您啊，要订阅辛恬面对面，然后呢，打开小铃铛，这样的话有新视频的时候，您就不会错过了。干净世界的朋友呢，就注册一个账号哈，关注辛恬面对面。那我还想就是回应一下，在前2天的这个视频节目中，有一位朋友哈，叫 Summer B 9496，他有留了一个留言哈。也非常感谢，他就分享了情况，他是芝加哥郊县的观众，很喜欢我们节目。他有观察到情况说，除了城市里面啊，其实在芝加哥所属的这个伊利诺州民众呢，很多是支持川普，但是呢。总体来说不影响伊利诺州大选是一个蓝州哈，这是他的一个观察。另外一个情况，他说最近有一个美国人同事就问这位朋友，他说他们投票到底有没有意义哈？因为电视上说大家去投票也不会影响大选结果。那这位朋友他说他觉得媒体现在潜移默化的想影响那些依赖传统媒体的川普支持者不要去投票。那问我们怎么想啊？我觉得呢，您的这个考虑呢，我也比较认同的。其实呢，说实话，作为很多美国人啊，尤其是一些包括教会里的一些人，据说呢有几十万的人啊，他们都没有注册投票。这个其实啊，真的是一个非常大的问题。其实不管他们想要支持谁，每个公民啊，每个选民一人一张票哈，其实真的是非常的神圣。那不管这些媒体也好，社交媒体也好，会从哪些方面去引导人呐？每个人的投票真的是有用的。所以呢，如果这位朋友哈还在看这个节目的话呢，可以跟你的同事去讲。一人一票真的很有用，即便最后的结果并不是他所投票的那一个候选人呐，但是这个是有作用的。就不光说就是有的时候这个票数就非常接近嘛，那如果你一个人觉得说我这一票没用，又有一个别的人也这么想的话，你想这个输赢就在几票之间，对吧？另外呢，就是说。其实呢，我最开始投票的时候，我就是这样的一个想法，就是说，只要我去投票了，那么就起作用了。那最后的结果，当然因为它是整个的一个，尤其是总统选举嘛，它是选举人票制度的，所以呢，它不会说从一人一票这样体现出来。但是呢，在这个过程中间，你这个票一定是有用的哈。好，那小杰有反馈说，台湾有70%选民出去投票，那真的是这样。我在1月份去台湾观选的时候，我就发现，台湾选民真的素质很高，他们就是投票率非常高哈，然后所以这一点啊，我觉得反而是像在台湾这个民主制度、选举制度其实历史并不长的地方呢，因为他们有经过了这个以前的这些经历哈，就是选票就是出现一些很奇怪的被盗啊，或者说投票一到半中间，这个灯光就灭了呀，等等这些啊，经历过这些之后呢。好像这些台湾选民，他们就更加珍惜这个台湾能够民主选举这样的一个权利和制度， 所以呢，可能美国选民呢，在这方面哈，要真的是要非常的要反思啊，要赶上去哈。Angel 说票数多少会影响执政的底气，没错。而且呢，就是说，即便是没有选上的这一方的话，但是这个票数多少，其实对他们也是很有意义的。Angel 还说这个，民意的展现会影响公共政策，没错。就是美国有一句话嘛，如果你不坐在 table， 你不坐在这个桌前的话呢，你可能就变成桌上的这个任人宰割的一块肉了哈。这个是一个比方。所以呢，就是说，民主共和宪政这样一个制度里面呢，真的是需要靠每一个人都要把自己当成主人的。玉赏说，觉得美国太富有了，年轻人轻易就可以获得几代人的财富，所以呢，不食人间烟火。等他们自己去接受这个社会，去经历这个社会的时候，就会发现啊，自己就会惊讶地发现自己财富已经属于一群陌生人了。是这样。好的，那赵小兰朋友他说呢，住在新泽西哈，有很多朋友挺川，支持他们，鼓励他们去投票，他们觉得投了也没有用哈。那真的，其实呢，这个真的不是一个好的现象。如果说觉得自己这一票没有用的话呢，我觉得这个对于这个他的对自己的这个公民权利啊，其实是认识不足的。这位朋友喜欢我这套衣服，谢谢。好的，那今天节目我想也就不拖太长了哈。非常感谢朋友们在这个晚上的时候呢，又陪着辛恬啊度过这一段时间，观看我在宾州的深度采访。好，那么在亚洲的朋友呢，在台湾朋友已经是中秋节了，我们在北美的朋友呢，明天就是中秋节，所以辛恬在这里呢，祝您中秋节快乐，记得点赞、订阅、打开小铃铛。好，那我们就到这里了，明天再见哦，下一次节目再见，明天不一定啊。好的，那就拜拜。